Welcome back out to the greenhouse here this morning. The sun is just breaking over our trees. We had about a 50-degree day. I started a fire down at the other end, closed up the door. I've got this door open behind the camera here, but we're sitting about 75 degrees in the greenhouse. It was about 50 out here this morning. So I've already shed my sweatshirt, done a bunch of work out here this morning. So we're going to take a look at the entire greenhouse here after I'm done showing these examples. Today we're out here rooting free plants with another plant, doing a very simple and easy free experiment. And we've done this year over year. I've got a whole tray of these rosemary here that were done up this exact way. Every one of these was rooted the same exact way. We're about to root up this hyssop and our lavender today. So we've got fresh hyssop, we've got a fresh lavender cluster here. So you've got your fresh lavender. Now that came from down at the other end of the greenhouse, and our hyssop here, the flowers have already started to wane. They're usually purple also. So we've got two examples of what we're going to be rooting up today just by simply taking cuttings and using a very special all-natural compound as opposed to rooting hormones. So if that sounds interesting, please consider subscribing. Let's jump right into this. So we're obviously not going to be rooting this massive cluster of hyssop. I've already chopped down a bunch of hyssop into small cuttings, and I've used the hardwood here. I just want to show all of this. So hyssop, you want to use like the second year growth. All of this hardwood will root much easier. We've got a good cluster of hardwood here, and same thing with our lavender. So just taking a quick look here, I can strip some extras off. So we've got nice thick woody material, and we will be able to make two cuttings right at the crotch of this. We'll be able to split it up and make two cuttings. We are not going to leave the flowers on because they no longer have any use for us trying to root. We will save these flowers. My wife will use them for something in the house, soap or some type of herb salve or something like that. So we will be taking all of the flowers, and they smell absolutely amazing. We'll be taking all the flowers off, and we're going to root all of these lavender. So you guys suggested that I actually tap my holes in. You can see all of my pots up here. So we've got, what, 18 of these. We'll just poke a quick hole in here. That way we're not rubbing too much aloe off. Yes, we are using aloe vera as an all-natural rooting hormone compound, even though it is not a hormone. The antibacterial and antifungal properties in your aloe, there's 420 different species of aloe, and most of them will work for this right here. They have antibacterial, antimicrobial properties that allow the roots to develop before the woody-eating pathogens in your soil and in damp locations that like to eat the woody substances like wood chips and fresh cuttings. We're protecting all of those cuttings from the pathogens and bacteria that are going to negate the process. As I showed, we had a 100% success rating on those rosemary. If we didn't use our aloe, we were closer to 50 to 60% success rate. And using the same exact location, everything, perfectly identical scenarios, one with aloe, one without, we get 50 to 60% as opposed to aloe being 70 to 90%. So I'm going to pull my handy dandy pocket knife out here, slice myself a nice piece of aloe. I'm going to bring the camera in closer so everybody can see what. You won't be able to see my face in this part of it, but we've got our aloe here, and we're just going to take and probably trim this down here. I don't want my cutting too darn long, so we're going to take it and we're going to cut it so we've still got a growth right here. We'll take and damage that growth at the bottom, take this, shove it right in and coat it in aloe, and then we'll just stick it right in, pinch the soil around it, and that is as simple as it gets. I'm going to go through, do all of these cuttings, and then we'll move on to the lavender. So while we're still on the hyssop here, we've got this hyssop long branch that I showed with the flowers and everything. So where we damage on these small growths, it wants to regrow vegetation. but it has undifferentiated cells in the skin at the nodes. Some have it throughout the entire skin, like elderberries will put roots off everywhere. Tomatoes, peppers, if you put them in water, they will grow roots off everywhere due to lots of undifferentiated cells being in the skin. Certain plants have them in the nodes, so we always like to use the nodes or the growth. So we will damage a few of those, and then that allows those undifferentiated cells to redevelop into roots as opposed to vegetative growth. So we've got all of our hyssop complete. Grab ourselves another piece of aloe here, piece of wood out of there, and then we're going to start taking our lavender. So this is the piece I showed for an example. We'll just cut it right at the crotch here. Now we've got 2 pieces, and we can make many cuttings just off of these pieces right here. And I always like to damage the top. We don't want to leave the tops. It seems to disallow, like it wants to regrow flowers as opposed to throw roots off and do vegetative growth. So this is what your lavender cuttings will look like. You pull and strip these bottom leaves off here, have a nice clean stick with little damaged spots. That way it allows for root growth. We'll run through all of this on fast forward, and then we'll go check out all of the rosemary cuttings, because I'm going to pull all of those out of their trays and we're going to put them right in the ground. So we've got all this lavender done up. We've got 18 new lavenders that we should have a decent success rate on, at least 70 to 100%, which is absolutely great. Now you probably could get the same results with a jar of rooting compound. That is considered and classified a pesticide by the USDA. So every time you open it, you're exposing yourself to a nasty toxic chemical powder that you can't even see. Unless you wear a respirator while you're using it, you're going to breathe some in every time you open the jar. We try and do everything as naturally as possible just by using nature and helping nature along by doing this ourselves. It gives us the benefit of knowing, and to our customers and everybody that we sell plants to, we know that this is 100% safe. It's not going to be toxic, no toxic soil, no nothing. So we just like to do it all natural as possible. I'm going to take these and set them over. I actually want to put them up on this tray here. So I'm going to move these bunching onions. This little rooting box, or this sprouting bed that I created, we've got little bunching onions coming up everywhere. I'm going to get these out of the way. Another tray of onions that sprouted for us in our little sprouting greenhouse inside the greenhouse. I know I'm just ranting while I'm walking around here, but you guys can still hear me because I got my microphone. So let's throw our lavender, let's throw our hyssop up into this little greenhouse inside our greenhouse. Let me clean up a little bit so I can walk around. Whew. All right, here we go. So we've got this little greenhouse inside a greenhouse that we've shown, and we've got all of these cuttings in here and our sprouts in here doing very well with the little solar powered heater. This thing runs like a little champ too. I mean, these were on before the sun even came up, so I'm wondering if it didn't run all night. I've got to do a test on that because it doesn't use a whole lot of energy. My son's goldfish want to be part of the video. They were just jumping and splashing around. They're probably looking for food, honestly. So we're going to go take all of these that we rooted with the same method that we just showed everybody, and they are going to get stored for winter so we don't have them in pots anymore. Now we've got this whole bed right here. I just flooded it all out, so we've got good heavy watering in the soil. We're going to throw all these in and check all of the roots on these. They've all been in here for about a month now. All right, guys, well, that's pretty much it. Got myself a little wet with the hose there because it's warming up. So you can see I had flooded this in very heavily. It allowed everything to mash together, and it just compacted all of the soil. Not compacted, but it filled in any gaps around all of the roots that I just put in the ground. So we've got ourselves a little forest of rosemary that will come up along with all of the other crops we've staggered in here. We've got some other rosemary that were from the market. We'll have a lot of access to plants early on in the season. Throughout the entire winter, we're just going to keep using this bed and pushing the soil wall down, excavating it out, flooding it. We've been dumping tons and tons of old potted soil, and then we just flood that in and let it wash over. So we're creating a very nice system and a nice root base, good soil, lots of humus in there, just an all-around good environment for all of these plants. And then we're looking over here. Just wanted to show this. I've been excavating out. I'm going to dig it down a little deeper, a little wider. We're going to be putting and trenching in all of the waste from the greenhouse, all of the plants and weeds and everything. Bury it nice and deep. Found myself some shale while I was excavating this bad boy out. Lots of pond work needs to get done, but the best environment for your cuttings is going to be a very damp, moist environment. And since all of these have roots except those elderberries that we stuck fresh in the ground, it doesn't matter about direct sunlight. We do have a shade cloth blocking direct sunlight, so no worries there. You want a nice, cool, humid environment. So underneath of this tunnel here, we have a nice, cool, but yet not too cool. It's going to be warm from our heater, enough to sprout and enough to allow the roots to soak up heat from the soil, but not too hot to where it negatively impacts these. So as long as we keep them in here for a week or two, we should start to see some root development, and then we can pull them out of this little tunnel and sprout some more plants. We're going to keep rotating plants through this little greenhouse inside our greenhouse. Whew. And with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I've got a lot more work to do and a lot more videos to create as we develop this greenhouse from summer to winter. So thank you guys very much, and I will see you in the next one.